what's up guys, Syed here. Today I am in a 2017 Subaru Forester XT. Okay, so this Forester XT is the facelifted version of the SJ generation Subaru Forester. And as you know, this is the last generation Subaru Forester XT that you can get, because the SK generation, the one that came after this generation Forester, is no longer turbocharged. It's a 2-litre naturally aspirated boxer engine. Okay, there's no more turbo. However, if you read car news, the 2022 Subaru Forester will come with a turbocharger, but that engine has been downsized. So that Subaru Forester will come with only a 1.8 litre turbo engine, and the horsepower output has also been dropped. This one comes with 237 horsepower. That one will come with like less than 200. I think it's 180 horsepower, something like that. And that won't be known as the Forester XT. That car will be known as the Forester Sport. So there's no more Forester XT basically. Alright, so some quick specs for this car. This has the 2-litre turbocharged engine producing 237 horsepower, 350 Newton meters of torque. This is the exact same engine that you get in the pre-facelift Subaru Forester SJ, and the drivetrain and transmission is also the same as the pre-facelift Forester SJ. So you get Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive in this car, and it also comes with a CVT transmission. Exterior wise, the differences between this facelifted and the pre-facelift Forester SJ, maybe just the headlights and some redesigned front stuff like that. It looks almost identical to the pre-facelift Subaru Forester, and not many people will be able to tell between the pre-facelift and the facelifted Subaru Forester. However, this facelifted Forester headlights come with a steering response function. So it's basically the headlights will move left or right depending on your steering input. So for example, when I'm turning the steering to the left, the headlights will also turn slightly to the left. If I turn to the right, it will adjust and turn to the right as well. So before I go on to the review, some competitors for this car will include other Japanese SUVs like the Nissan X-Trail, Mazda CX-5, the Mitsubishi Outlander, Hyundai Tucson, the 1.6 and the 2-litre. However, out of all those Japanese SUVs in this class, I think this Forester is the one with the most value for money. Why I say that is because all those cars have about the same DP, about 10k-ish depreciation per year. Same with this Forester XT, but this has a 2-litre turbo engine, all-wheel drive, Harman Kardon sound system, sunroof, and it looks good as well. So in terms of value for money, I think this car stands out more than the competition. The other cars, most of them are front-wheel drive. They have way lesser power than this. One more car that the Forester sort of competes with is the Toyota Harrier Turbo. However, the Harrier Turbo has a higher DP than this, about 12k onwards. And that car is still lesser on power compared to this, and it's still front-wheel drive. So in terms of a complete SUV package, I think the Forester does really well. So interior design, I think I've said this before in my other Subaru reviews. Subaru is not really known to make very nice interiors, but in this car, I think the interior is quite nice. I think they did quite a good job. So even though you get like some cheap hollow plastic here in the side, the rest of the car you get really nice leather in the seats, in the side of the doors here. You have piano black finish all around. It comes with memory seats, auto tailgate, engine start stop, keyless entry, cruise control, Harman Kardon sound system, panoramic sunroof. The infotainment head unit has also been upgraded as compared to the pre-facelift Forester. So in the pre-facelift Forester, the infotainment just looks like it came out of an old car. It's black and white, not even a color infotainment. Okay, but this one, of course, it's been upgraded. It's touch screen. It works well. Maybe it's slightly laggy, but I think that's okay. It's not that bad. When you look at the interior of the car, I think it just looks quite good. Okay. Also, this car, I have to point out that it comes with this sort of like maroon brown interior seats, and also on the door panels. So it looks really good as compared to a regular Forester where it comes with just the black leather seats. Okay, so moving on to the practicality of this car, I think it's really practical for an SUV. You get quite decent sized door bins at the side. You can fit like a big bottle in there. You get this compartment in the center to keep your stuff, 2 cup holders. The space in the center compartment here is also quite deep. Glove box is also quite a decent size. More importantly, in the rear, tall passengers will not have a problem in this car, because I get more than one knee room of space with this seat in my original driver's position. I get more than one knuckle of headroom as well in the rear seats. and because this has a boxer engine, which means the architecture, the engine layout is quite flat, Subaru is able to put the engine lower down in the car. That means the drivetrain components are all lower down in the car, and they can build the rest of the car up on top of that. That's why your windows are so big. That's why even though this is an all-wheel drive car, the transmission tunnel in the rear isn't that intrusive. By the way, this car comes with the NVIDIA LTA legal exhaust. For this generation Forester SJ, there are only two LTA legal exhausts, HKS and NVIDIA. Alright, I hope you can see me, by the way, because it's gonna rain soon. It's quite cloudy outside, so I hope this video doesn't turn out to be too dark. Okay, maybe that helps. Alright, so first things first, because I myself used to drive a Forester, so I know exactly what it's like. I used to drive the pre-facelift SJ generation Forester. Actually, I still have that car now. Differences between the pre-facelift and this facelifted one. I think the interior, big difference. Everything else in terms of the drive and all, it's not that different. Visibility all around, like I mentioned, is very, very good because the windows are very big. You sit very high up in the car. Steering is also quite light, I would say, for this car. In the pre-facelift SJ, it's a bit heavier. I think this steering is a bit lighter, which makes it easier to drive in the city or in the car park like this. It's not as tiring. Also, in the pre-facelift Forester, the engine brake, especially when you drive at low speeds, is quite strong. If you are not familiar with the car and you just drive it like a normal car, you will feel the engine brake very apparent, very obvious. Also, one thing I want to point out, the side indicators, right, the ones on the door, some Forester owners have complained that when they go for inspection, actually it failed inspection. But this is not an aftermarket modification. This is actually stock. It comes with the car. So what I understand from reading Subaru owner groups and stuff is that it depends on which inspection center you go to and which person inspects your car. Some of them failed the inspection, some of them passed the inspection. So to me, it's quite stupid lah. Like, it came with the car. Why would it? It's not supposed to fail any inspection, right? Because it's not a modification. It's really stock. It came with the car. In terms of driving this car, it's actually quite a nice drive. I drove this car up Genting Highlands quite a few times. For a big SUV like this, it handles quite well. Driving this car, right, I think it's for an SUV, it's really good and it really drives nicely. But the leather on the steering wheel, I think I mentioned this in my pre-facelift SJ review as well. The leather on the steering wheel is not those kind of like high-end leather you get in maybe the seats, for example. You can feel that the quality of the leather is like a bit lower end quality, okay? And the steering wheel is like probably the most touched part of the car, okay? You touch it every single time you get in the car. So, it just affects the driving feel a little bit because the feeling in your hands isn't that nice. If they use the same leather as they used in the maybe Lavok, for example, then this driving the Forester is really, it's quite a nice experience. But this is just a small thing because at the end of the day, your leather you can always rewrap. You can rewrap, you can use a cover, you have options lah, basically, if you are not happy with the leather that they use on the steering wheel. Also, is probably another downside of this car is that, probably another downside of this car is that the petrol consumption, because it's an SUV, all-wheel drive, 2-litre turbo, you can't expect the fuel consumption to be that good, and it's not. On paper, this car is supposed to do about 11 plus kilometers per litre, which is actually quite a stretch, because if you can get 11 plus kilometers per litre, but that's if you drive on the highway and you really are very gentle on the throttle. When you drive in the city, for example, in the pre-facelift SJ, I'm getting like 8 to 9 kilometers per litre, and on the highway it's about 10 kilometers per litre. So you can expect the same fuel consumption figures on this facelifted Forester SJ. Also, another downside of the Forester is, I think, the road noise. So it's actually way better than the previous gen Forester, the SH Forester, but sometimes when you drive at higher speeds, you do kind of like hear it. It's not a deal breaker, but when you drive, for me, in my experience, you drive above like maybe 160, then you will start to really hear the wind noise, the road noise. Anything below that, it's perfectly fine. It's not like a super quiet S-Class kind of ride, but for a Subaru, for a Japanese car, I think it's really quite good. So in some ways, I think the Forester is like a sleeper SUV. It looks like a regular family car, but because the difference between the XT, the turbo Forester, and the non-XT, the regular Forester, the non-turbo one, is if you want to tell the difference, you just look at the exhaust. Okay, the Forester XT has twin exhausts, dual exhaust, whatever you call it. Okay, there's two exhaust ports, whereas the regular Forester, the non-turbo one, only has one exhaust. So that's how you tell between 150 horsepower Forester with a 240 horsepower Forester. The difference is about 90 horsepower between the turbo and non-turbo variants. So it's quite a big difference. So what about the performance of this car? I think I don't really need to explain in depth, because 237 horsepower, it's more than enough. 0 to 100 timing for this car officially is 7.5 seconds. And when you step on the accelerator, right, you do feel the pull. Also, this car has 3 different driving modes: Sports Sharp, Sports, and Intelligent mode. Intelligent mode is where you'll be in most of the time. It's the default mode when you start the car, okay? But if you need more power, just put it into Sports or Sports Sharp. Personally, I just put it to Sports Sharp. I don't bother with Sports mode. Just put it into Sports Sharp, and you have pedal shifters for you to use, so you can upshift and downshift. And before you tell me, oh, it's a CVT, there's no gears, you know what I'm talking about, okay, when I say upshift and downshift. Also, driving this car around, it's quite smooth because it's a boxer engine, so the pistons are, outwards, they are horizontally opposed. Okay, so the pistons, because they move like this way, they cancel out the vibrations on each side. So that means the engine is really very smooth. So yeah, driving this car, it's smooth, okay, especially when you combine it with the right tires, like high profile tires, maybe comfort tires like your Bridgestone Alenza or Bridgestone Dueler, something like that. You will get a relatively smooth and compliant drive. And the thing I like about this car is that it really embodies the confidence in motion slogan that Subaru uses, okay, because when you drive this car in the rain, in wet weather like this, okay, maybe not like this is just a bit of rain, but when you drive in heavy rain, knowing that the all-wheel drive system is always there, it sort of gives you assurance even when you drive fast and stuff like that. So yeah, confidence in motion. Overall, I think the Forester is just a fantastic package, okay. For a Japanese SUV, it's really, really good, about as good as it can get. You get features that would normally come in, more expensive cars, like your upgraded branded sound system, your panoramic sunroof, memory seats, electric adjustments for both driver and passenger side, electric tailgate, touchscreen infotainment head unit, 237 horsepower turbocharged engine. Yeah, overall just fantastic package, especially considering the price. Really value for money. And I'm not saying that because I drive it. This car has its downsides, like I mentioned. The fuel consumption isn't that good. The leather on the steering wheel, not the best material. If you're very particular about interior, yeah, there's hollow plastic, cheap filling plastics here and there. But these are just small minor issues which, when you talk about the whole car as a package, yeah, these are very minor. It's still a fantastic car. So yeah guys, that's about it for this review. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.